Hey, welcome back to VDB. This is episode 3. I got Cory Sparkuhl here from Sparkuhl Films. He's going to be our special guest today. He does a lot of content creation, filmmaking, a lot of social media marketing videos. But now you're basically a movie maker now, huh?
Well, trying to be, to say the least. I mean, this is what I've been wanting to do my entire life, as opposed to just commercial video production. So, yeah, we are currently making a movie.
That's awesome. We'll get to that soon. But, one question I want to ask you is, how'd you get into this whole, cinematography, filmmaking game? Is this something that started when you were younger, or something you picked up as you got older, or what?
Ever since I was a young kid, filmmaking has always been a big part of my life. I've always been inspired by movies, of course, when I was a kid. I was a movie freak, always sitting in front of the TV watching movies. But I picked up a skateboard, video camera when I was about 5 years old and started making skateboarding videos with my buddies in Laguna Beach. And from then on, it just transcribed into a passion and started tapping into post-production right around 12 years old. I opened Adobe Premiere, and that's when I started getting into editing. And after that, I really got into it a lot. I took it to the next level, kept doing videos in high school with my friends. But then, obviously, you want to make a living for it as you get older. So that's when things started to change a little bit. But yeah, always had a passion for it since.
So you're kind of inspired by the CKY stuff?
Bam Margera, Johnny Knoxville, man.
All those guys.
Well, I must say Bam Margera in general. I didn't even watch Jackass until high school, but yeah, CKY, man. My friends and I were so inspired by that.
I remember watching CKY in like 1998 with the first one, Land Speed. And, it's just something you never really seen before, right? I mean, we grew up, right? And we did our stuff, but we never, at least me, I never filmed it. But just to see, those guys doing pranks and filming it was pretty epic. I mean, it was before its time, right? It was probably the first, YouTube, before people were making videos, about themselves or whatever. I was inspired by that. I grew up on movies too, even though I didn't have a plan to get into videography or video production. It was always around me.
Right.
And I always paid attention to that stuff, but eventually I think that was my path because it always was around me, even though I didn't go to school for that stuff and try to become a filmmaker or editor or anything. It's just something that I was with my brother. His friends used to film stuff, and I used to see editing back in the day, back when it was hard to get an editing software. Right. It was super expensive, to do it in-house, right? So that's just kind of how I got into it. Kind of similar, we're the same age, so it's funny how we evolved into it to maybe someone today that has social media and there's video everywhere, right?
Right.
And you can do this stuff on your own. I mean, before when we were growing up, you had to have a production hub or a production company to really do production, right? And to be doing something independently, it's great. I mean, I would say you're up there as an independent filmmaker or videographer. You're probably one of my top favorites.
I appreciate that, man. I mean, hey, we're all inspired by something growing up, right? I mean, whether it's CKY, movies, whatever. I mean, like you said, those guys were ahead of their time doing what they were doing, and yeah, it influenced me to want to take it to the next level.
And that's another thing I want to talk about. When we started, I mean, we're using mini, DV tapes, SD, right? We weren't even in HD yet. I remember in 2008 or something, I think that 7 or 8, the HD cameras started coming out, but I mean, we grew up in the standard definition, lifestyle and shooting with a camera that actually had a tape where you had to record, right? There was no digital record, it was all to tape, and then have to edit that from tape to tape, right? It was totally different,
Oh, yeah. I remember doing it in the VCR.
Yeah, VCR. I used to do that stuff all the time, especially when I was recording, other movies and stuff. I had a buddy that had the dual VCR, so you could play it out and then record on the other side of the VCR.
There you
go.
So I just have a random question for you. What was your favorite film as a kid? Was your the first movie that really got you into film?
Wow, you are asking a tricky question. I mean, if I had to label one of my favorite movies growing up when I was younger, I would say, right off the bat, gun to my head, Terminator 2.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a win.
That's
Yeah.
one of my tops.
Absolutely.
I like Terminator 1 though.
No, Terminator 1 is amazing, but Terminator 2, I remember the experience of watching that movie at the Big Newport in, what year was that? 1994. 94,
yeah.
yeah. And there was a line going around the theater. We had to wait 2 hours to watch that movie. I remember seeing it, and my jaw was just dropping the whole time. The special effects were so ahead of their time, and it was the rare sequel that was like almost better than the first one.
Yeah, and you actually had to go to a theater to watch a movie.
Absolutely.
You don't just get to chill out in your living room and, do Netflix or whatever, You'd actually go down there, bro, and
Totally different
see
vibe.
that stuff.
I think it's also a crazy vibe, the fact that this came out July 3rd, 1991, and it's still today looked at as being like top flight film. Like nothing can compare to that. I mean, I think the 90s and the 80s really, they mastered it in terms of just like perfection in movies and film.
Absolutely. I mean, anytime there's like a 90s throwback movie that comes out, I'm like, I'm in. I want to see it. I love that era of movies, and I grew up during that time. So, yeah, it holds a special place in my heart.
Yeah, you said 91, right? I said 94.
Yeah, 91.
91.
Yeah,
Wow.
I take that back. 91 is when Terminator came out, not 94. I think True Lies came out in 94.
So I was like only 7 or 8 years old when I saw Terminator 2. What were my parents thinking taking me to the movies and a rated R movie like that? It's crazy.
Hey, well, that's the whole thing. Like, I grew up exactly the same way. My dad let me watch horror movies when I was like 5, 6 years old. I remember watching Chucky when I was like 5.
Oh, never forget
And I was so
Same.
scared, man. Like, I thought Chucky was gonna pop out of my closet. All that stuff, man. Like, it's funny how back then it's just parents were a little bit more nicer in that way of letting you watch like weird movies, or at least my parents were.
It's so true. I know. I think like my dad would always explain to me, he'd be like, oh, this is not real life. This is like a movie. This is a fantasy. So when you look at it like that and you're watching some violent or disturbing act like in a movie that's rated R, you can understand that that's not reality, and you would never want to
Right.
be influenced by that
Yeah,
type of stuff.
yeah. I've never been influenced by that stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
it's cool to watch. and
Absolutely.
I always have
But I think
separation.
I
from
think
that.
that's why people worry in this day and age to show kids that type of content, because they think they're gonna like emulate what they see in
Yeah,
the
well,
movies.
we've had so much of that stuff happen,
Yeah.
right? People shooting up theaters or whatever. I mean, I remember Beavis and Butthead got so much flack because some kid like burned down his house or something,
Right.
and they like blamed it on Beavis and Butthead, and it's like,
Of course.
Wow.
I remember that. I remember that was in big news back then. So, but yeah, well, so just to branch off, I mean, did you go to college to become a filmmaker?
Yes, I did go to college. So after high school, upon graduation, I went to Orange Coast College for 2 years. Got my standard degree there. I did have a choice actually to go to Cal State Long Beach. I got accepted to there. But the reason why I chose film school, I chose the LA Film School in West Hollywood, because I had heard so many wonderful things about it. I had a friend who was in the industry. He had graduated from there. He got a job opportunity. He was already like editing poker videos and like doing really high-end stuff. So I figured, I'm like, you know what? I want to jump right into it. I want to go to film school. I want to learn from the best of the best teachers. I want to get the hands-on experience of cinematography, post-production, After Effects.
Right.
I knew nothing about After Effects before film school, but
So what year was this? Like mid 2000s?
So to be specific, I think it was 2000. When did I leave to go to film school?
Like
So I
4 or
graduated. I graduated in 2003, and then I went to college for about 2 years. So about 2005 is when I went to film school in LA, and I was up there for about 2.5, 3 years, and that's when
Okay.
I finished.
So you actually graduated from there?
I graduated from there.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
What I mean, do you think you need for the stuff you're doing now? Do you think schooling is a must, or is that something you don't need to go to schooling for?
I mean, let's look at it. That was like over 15 years ago.
Right.
I mean, the industry has changed so much since then. I figure now there's so many hands-on master classes, tutorials you can watch online. I guess at the end of the day, what film school really gives you is credibility. And it really makes it look like you're dedicated to your passion. You went to school, you graduated, and then I think the connections to the school and the teachers there.
Yeah, the networking.
The networking goes a
Did you
long
get
way.
much networking when you left there, or you just kind of bounced out of there?
That's so funny you say that, because they like always like tell you they're going to guarantee you job placement and all this stuff. Oh, you're going to graduate, we're going to get you a job in the industry. And while maybe that's true, I feel like I was giving more students job opportunities there from my status,
Right.
rather than the school itself giving me those opportunities.
Yeah, I think the stuff we do, like you said, I mean, for the networking purposes, it's probably great to go to school for the, filmmaking. It just depends what avenue you want, right? If you want to really get into movies, maybe school is the thing to do. But if you want to do the independent stuff like you're doing, maybe you don't need the schooling, right? But you got to be good at what you do, right? You got to put that time in. You can't just be some average Joe to do this stuff. You gotta put the work in.
You can't just like expect to learn this stuff overnight. I mean, heck, me been doing this for over 20 years, I'm still learning something new every day. So it just depends on how much time you want to apply yourself to learning that.
Well, how do you think, since we're talking about, mid 2000s to now, like, how do you think the equipment has evolved from then to now for your line of work? Is it something technology's become a lot better, so it's made it easier for you to do this independently, right?
Absolutely. I mean, the equipment technology now compared to what it used to be back then is extravagant. We have cameras that are way more accessible to use now. You used to have to spend $10,000-$20,000 just to get your whole camera set up back then. Now you can spend probably a couple $100 to $1,000 to have some camera that can get you some good results. I always say in this day and age, it's not even about the camera, it's how you use it.
Right,
Yeah.
right, yeah. I mean, you got to know what you're doing.
Absolutely.
A good camera works, of course, like, it'll do well for you, but if you have no clue what you're doing, then, yeah, you might as well just have a point and shoot camera then, or use your phone, right?
So true.
So, any of the people that you went to school with, or do you guys still talk to each other? Do you guys still exchange like tips and tricks and stuff, or is it kind of like you guys kind of separated and did your own thing afterwards?
After film school, I did definitely have a strong network with a lot of students who worked there, especially ones that were, getting jobs in the industry and working up there. We would kind of keep in the loop and suggest opportunities to each other. Over the years, I have lost touch with a lot of them, to be honest. There is this guy, David Brooks, who went to my film school, and he actually went on to direct like serious movies. Have you guys heard of the movie ATM? It's a horror movie. It's an indie film. I think you can watch it on, if I'm not mistaken, you watch it on AMC Plus. But anyway, it's actually a really good movie. The guy, David Brooks, he's like literally my age. I think he might be 1 year younger than me. He's the director of that movie. So him and I kept in touch for a lot of years. And then I heard that he was actually working on that movie. And then when I saw it, I actually really liked the movie. I was like,
That's impressive, man.
Yeah.
I actually remember watching that movie. Josh Peck is in it. Brian Gadary. Like, there's a lot of great actors. Alice Eve.
Alice Eve, yeah.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty legit.
And it came out in 2012. So,
Yep.
yeah, it's a classic.
Yeah, he graduated right around the same time I did. And yeah, I think they made that movie for, if I'm not mistaken, almost less than $1 million.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So why didn't you stay in the entertainment business like up in LA? Why'd you just say, nah, I'm going to leave you guys alone and I'm going to go do my own thing?
The industry up there is, how do you say it? It's really cutthroat. There's you really have to work your way up the ladder to be successful up there. I mean, I got friends who spent 10 years just working their way up to be an assistant producer on a movie. So I had an internship. I worked on that movie, Catch Me If You Can. This was during my transition of graduation from film school. But
What were you, a PA?
basically a PA grunt, whatever you want to call
That's
it.
a production assistant if nobody knows what that
Production
is.
assistant, yeah. Passing wires around, getting coffee for people if they need it.
Yeah, you're the BITCH basically.
You're the grunt, yep. So yeah, that's what I was doing, and it was a great experience. Seeing Spielberg working, and I saw a couple scenes with Leonardo DiCaprio at the train station in Los Angeles. We were there for about a week doing some production, and it was very insightful to me because it showed me that I'm more than that. I'm not just some grunt in the industry. I have creative insight in my mind that I want to present to my audience. So how do I present that? I want to start my own thing. So We can get more into that, but I think those opportunities started coming around once Orange County became more popular.
Right. I mean, because I worked in LA for 15 years. I was in the entertainment business. I did the same stuff, PA work, right? Worked yourself up. It is a very cutthroat mentality up there. You know, you butt heads. It's long hours, right? You know, production is very long hours. You could be on, you know, a set for 14 hours. But the one thing I did get out of it is at least showed me that it took a team to build something, right? Like to make something like really big. So like, how do you feel when you're just doing this independently to somebody who has like a team of, you know, production people who have a common goal to create something? Like, do you find working by yourself is better, or do you like it having a couple people around you when you create?
Well, it's definitely more rewarding working by yourself because you get all the kudos,
Right.
you know, as opposed to you have a team of people, you're working under a director. It's like at the end of the day, they're going to be the one getting all the pat on the back, so to speak. So, you know, it's just different. You know, it's a lot less stressful when you have a team of people. I think you're able to have more control of everything. That's the scariest part about working independent. Sometimes you feel like you don't have control of everything as much as you think you do. So I think you really have to take charge when you're working by yourself and be responsible because everything's in your hands and, you know, it can make or break the project.
Yeah, I would agree. I like, personally, I like having a team just because, or at least another person.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you got to pay them. That's the bad part about it because you got to pay them to be there. But just at least when I shoot, like I get a little bit of tunnel vision and it's easy to forget something or miss something. And it's always cool to have somebody around to like, you know, like, hey, maybe we do it this way, or hey, you missed, we could do it like this, and you're like, oh yeah, that's a good idea, you know, something that you could totally overlook, right? So, but yeah, I was just saying, like, just with working in the entertainment business, like seeing that, like you have, it is a tough road. Like you said, it could take you 10 years to get to a certain level and not even get to that level where you want to be. It's a lot of being a yes man too. Some people can't be that. I'm not a very big yes man. Only in certain things I can be, but it's tough. I mean, you deal with executive producers, right? You know, producers, all that kinds of stuff. So, do you regret any of it? Like going on your own from going the entertainment way?
You know, all life experiences lead you to where you are today. So if I had to go back and change anything, I wouldn't do anything different. I think I did everything right the way I should, and I lived my life the way I want to, and I've had a quality of life that I've always want to have.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is more important than anything. And nobody should have to work the rest of their life and not be happy doing what they're doing.
Yeah, that's one thing. When I was working in LA, Orange County, you know, this is before social media was a big thing, right? With video or just video in general, like just companies hiring people for video. Like Orange County was like nothing, man.
It was dead.
Like 10 years ago, like you could not, it'd be tough to find a production job with a company around here. It was all LA based for the most part. But now, like there's tons. I mean, social media blew that up with, I think, COVID, right? 2020 kind of like fast paced that, like, hey, we need to be on social media, create video content and all that. So it's great to see like all these areas that, you know, are not LA and Hollywood, right?
Right.
Are doing a lot of, you know, video work, which, you know, you pretty much started when there was much going on around here. Like, right? Like you were.
Absolutely. So now it's been 12 years since I've had my business. So I started in 2012. And, you know, during that time, there wasn't a lot going on. I mean, even my dad, he was giving me a lot of slack saying, you know, are you sure you want to do this? I don't think you're going to be able to survive doing production around here. You should be up in LA where all the other opportunities are. But I convinced him that, you know, Laguna in general was becoming more popular for that kind of stuff. And now here we are. It's really popular. I mean, people up in Los Angeles want to come work in Orange County.
Yeah, it's. I think it's up and coming. There's a lot of work to be done here. There's a lot more independent, you know, filmmakers or videographers.
Absolutely.
How do you feel that there's more more people doing that though here, and you're not like the only one in the game. There's a lot more now.
Yeah, there's a lot more competition now than there used to be. You know, it's slowly but surely, I hate to say it, getting kind of saturated. I mean, there are so many amazingly talented content creators these days. But you know what? I don't even look at it as competition because I'm pretty confident with what I do. I've been doing it for long enough, and my connections go such a long way.
Yeah.
You know,
you hit it from a different angle for sure, man.
Yeah.
You bring a lot of dynamic video making that a lot of people don't see or don't even know how to do, really.
Absolutely.
You know, because you put that time in, right? You're already 12 years into this, right? Some people started this in like 2020, right? Because of COVID, lost their job, right? They're just getting into this, like first time taking photography or video or whatever. So it's good to see one of the OGs. I would classify you as an OG.
Oh, dude, that's a huge compliment, man.
Oh yeah,
Appreciate
easy,
that.
man. I mean, I've been following your stuff for a long time, and I always knew, like, just the way you present your stuff, I was like, oh, this guy knows what he's doing. You can tell, right? You can tell when someone knows what they're doing and not doing.
Well, heck, if I didn't know what I was doing, then I'm in the wrong industry.
You're right, exactly. So, but just to branch off into social media, like, how's social media have helped you? Because, 12 years ago, we didn't really have, we didn't have Instagram and, the way we're going TikTok and all this stuff where people are just using their phones to view stuff and it's easy. Like, how has social media, like, helped you out for your business?
I mean, it's free advertising.
Right.
You used to have to pay money to have a commercial spot on TV to even get it seen by anybody. Now you got free advertising on Instagram, Facebook. I mean, everybody's on there. I mean, it's elevated my business. It really has. It's not only given me more opportunities and given me jobs that I never would have had, but it's really given me credibility. Just having a substantial following online and producing good quality content. I mean, people take me seriously. They know I'm not messing around with this.
Yeah. And how do you think, like, his social media expanded your business a lot, right?
It has. Having a website is great. Obviously, that's your bread and butter. That's where you're going to get most of your jobs. But through Instagram and Facebook, it's given me opportunities that I never would have had.
No doubt. And, if you're talking to one of our viewers and they were just getting into this game, who had a mindset of like, hey, I want to go on my own, do this, kind of like what Cory's doing, is there any advice you would give them?
Be ready to do a lot of work, a lot of hours. I mean, right now I'm kicking back. I'm not working as much as I used to, but man, I'd be staying up till like 3 or 4 in the morning doing editing every night and like working on projects just to, make sure I have ends meet the next day.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to be kind of a psycho about it, right?
Yeah, and then having to figure out what you want to charge for your work. I mean, let's face it, we live in a very expensive area. Orange County in general, I mean, you have to make good money to live here.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Do you think, what is like probably the one thing, if someone was getting into what you're doing, like really understand, like production-wise, is it shooting? Is it editing? Is it, what is it? The storytelling? Like, what should you be good at to make it in this industry?
Like what you just said, storytelling. I mean, let's face it, the history of film and cinema, videos, commercials, it's all about the story, right? So I think having a grip on that touch is very important. So however you want to present that, whether it's filming it in a certain way, but honestly, I think the more people hone in on their editing skills, they're going to be able to really tell a diverse story.
Yeah, I agree, because I think editing will help you in every aspect of video production. Because if you can understand editing, and that comes with, how to edit a video, but audio, right? Audio is big.
Of course.
It's going to help you with different angles of shooting too, because you can like manipulate things.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always said, like, if you can understand editing really well, it's going to help you in every aspect of your video production. Do you agree with that?
100%. I mean, and editing can be fun. If you want to make it fun, it can be fun. If you want to make it a daunting challenge, then that's how it's going to be.
Yeah, I know. It's like anything, like going to the gym, right? Once you start, though, you're good.
Absolutely.
That's how I would look at it when I edit. It's like, oh, I got to edit. And then, but once I start, it's like, all the juices, all the creative juices that start going, right?
I
It's
am
just
right
getting
there with you, man. No, I get so impatient with editing because I don't have enough time to work on these projects. So I just have to find the right amount of time to get it started, get it finished, and then move on to the next project.
And do you think using like CapCut is like editing?
I mean, if you're a lazy boy and you feel like editing on your phone, it's
But
not
to
bad.
make money, if you're gonna make money and brand yourself as a professional, do you think you should rely on CapCut?
Only if you're a TikToker.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're a serious filmmaker and videographer and you want to present yourself seriously, use some real editing software. Edit on a computer. You're so limited with what you can do on your phone.
What's your recommended editing software?
Well, I was on Final Cut for most of my life, and Final Cut's still great, but in the last couple of years I switched over to Adobe, and it's just been a lot more easier, fluid to learn new tricks and tips on there, and yeah, Adobe Premiere is the way to go.
I'm all Final Cut.
I know. Everybody has their preference.
Yeah, it's just what you want to put your time into, right?
Exactly.
I think that's what you got to pick. You can't bounce between 3 or 4 different editing softwares. It's hard to really hone in on every that software if you're bouncing from Adobe to Final Cut to DaVinci or it's. I think you need to pick your poison.
Absolutely. I mean, the reason why I like Adobe so much is because obviously we go back to After Effects and how into it I got. I mean, After Effects is integrated with Premiere now, so you can open up your project file from Premiere in After Effects and have the ability to quickly do your special effects, your titles, whatever you're looking to do.
Yeah, they speak the same language. It's a lot easier to deal with. Easier workflow for that matter. Well, one thing I wanted to ask you is, you're always editing, you're always putting up a new reel like almost every day. Like, how do you schedule that? How do you work through all that and not be burnt out from just creating content all the time? I mean, you're a maniac, dude. Like I every day something's new, and it's good too. It's not like some basic whatever stuff. It's all like dynamic, and it's all edited really well, and a lot of storytelling, like you said, a lot of voiceovers you do also on top of your videos, and plus just sound effects. I mean, that takes, just doing audio work alone takes a long time, man.
I mean, if you really want to laugh your ass off a little bit, sometimes I will be so ambitious to put together a reel in the morning that I know I'm like, okay, 8 a.m. is my target time to post it. I know that's when it's going to get more views. So what time is it? It's 5:30 in the morning. I'm waking up. I'm just like, okay, I got 2 hours to make a solid edit, and then I got about 30 minutes to do my sound design. And I'll literally be rushing, chasing the clock to post it. So now what I've gotten better at doing is like maybe putting it together the night before, so I don't have to wake up early. Right. Or maybe if I do a solid edit the night before, and then I wake up early, review it, look at it really quickly. I'm like, it's good to go. So that's one strategy, but another strategy, and this is a great way to do it, I was a lot better at this a couple years ago, was just dedicating my entire Sunday to doing like 3 or 4 videos. You have all your videos written down that you want to do. I want to do an Insta360 video. I want to do a lifestyle travel video. Have it all written down, and then you dig into your archives, and you pretty much spend your entire Sunday having your arsenal ready for the week.
So you pre-plan it?
Absolutely.
You write it down like on paper, hey, I'm going to do 360, and then
I have
FPV.
Yeah, if I don't write it down, then I'll forget. I'll literally...
On top of your head, okay. That's good. You should always do that.
You have to. I mean, sometimes out of the blue, I'll get inspired. I'll see somebody else's video on Instagram or Facebook and think to myself, man, now I have another idea to do a video similar, but my own style.
Well, one we talked about in our last podcast is how to avoid burnout, like social media burnout. I see that a lot. Just people saying I'm burnt out, or I don't know how to create right now, like a writer's block. Like, to me, like when I was telling Zach, like I don't get burnt out because I don't allow myself to get burnt out. I do this for fun, but also do it to like get customers, right?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to appease my followers. Yeah, it's great to, continue to have your followers connect with your footage or whatever, but I don't do that stuff. So I never get burnt out. Like whenever I post, what time, it doesn't matter. Like, it just doesn't bother me. but you see other people say like, oh, I'm burnt out, I need to take a break. Like, how do you not fall into that?
How do you not get burnt out on
Yeah,
social media?
or just creating just in content alone for social media.
I think the best way to do it is to, obviously you want to have a plan. If you want to be successful on social media, you have to have some kind of strategy, whether it's posting at a certain time, putting content up that people like, or just flat out engaging with people,
Right.
commenting on other people's stuff, getting them to follow you back.
That's a job in itself, though.
It's a job in itself, and that's how people get really burned out. And I think when you're posting content you think is good, and then all of a sudden, let's say you look at it and you're like, my content kind of sucks compared to other people.
Yeah, comparing.
That's going to burn you out really quickly. So if you're not proud about what you're putting online, then that's going to burn you out really quickly. And especially if you're spending more time on that Instagram platform or TikTok rather than spending your time in real life where you're actually making money.
Right.
It's not going to take you anywhere. Then you're wasting all your time. What are you doing? You're working half the time, and then the other time you're just on Instagram?
Yeah.
No.
That's one thing we talked about, me and Zach, was, just because you have a big following doesn't mean anything. And I know you have a big following, which means, you bring it. It doesn't matter. You have a big following because you do bring it with your content. But then there's people that have huge followings who do very basic work. Mm-hmm. But then there's somebody who might have like 2,000 followers, but actually grinds and makes money. Like, the whole following thing, like, to me it's successful to a certain extent, but it's the guy who's grinding and making money, even if he has 2,000 to 200,000. Like, that's what I think is success, is people going out doing good work, right? Quality work. We always talk about quality, exactly. Right? Because anybody can do basic work. Like, anybody can use their cell phone and take a shot of a cool sunset or whatever. Like, that stuff's pretty basic, and I do that stuff too, but you can tell who does the quality stuff. But I just wanted to touch base on the whole burnout, because I think a lot of people do present that like, hey, I'm burnt out, like, and that's another thing, is like, why do you need to tell everybody you're burnt out? Like, why don't you just keep it to yourself?
Just keep it to yourself.
And go do your own thing for a little bit or whatever.
I also love what you were saying about how basically, like, it's a show a lot of the times. I mean, especially since they introduced the whole blue mark thing, or the blue check thing.
Blue check mark.
And it's like, okay, blue check, 10,000 followers, but then you look at his actual views and stuff, and it doesn't even compare to like what is actually presented into a success. And it's better just to see people kind of to really put the, like what you're doing, dude. You're posting every day, and you're actually putting out decent quality work. And yeah, you need to just keep up with that, man. It's amazing stuff.
You know who some of my favorite people are to follow on Instagram? Are the ones who post like maybe every 2 weeks, maybe once a month, because when they're gonna post something, it's gonna be a banger.
They put some time
It's
in.
a banger.
Yeah.
Like, and that I got mad respect for those kind of people, because I watch their videos and I can tell, I'm like, wow, this guy put in like days, hours, time into this video. He didn't just put like 2 or 3 hours.
Right.
He put like 40 hours into this video.
Exactly.
Do you think that's worth it, though? Like, if you're not getting money in return for that, and you're just getting, I guess, exposure, is that worth it?
Depends on how you look at it. I mean, like you said, if they're not getting in any jobs or money from it, then yeah, it's probably not worth it. But if they're putting in that time and energy into a project like
the
that,
clients will see that, right? People know quality.
brands,
right?
brands, companies see that, and they take it seriously.
People are not stupid, right? They know what's quality and what's not. And I've gotten a lot of my work through just social media alone. That's all I use. I have a website, but I would say 90% of my jobs come through
from social
media. Yeah, because you post your content. They see like, oh, this is better than most, right? Like, let's see if I can work with them,
right?
And that's one thing. Like, people are all, and we talked about this, like going viral and all this, which is great. But to me, it's like, all I need is that one person to see that video, right? And if that person hires me, that's my goal. Like, yeah, it's nice for your video to go like millions of views, but what if you get 1 million views but you get no work out of it? And let's say you get 5,000 views and you get 2 jobs out of it. I would rather take the 5,000 views and and the 2 jobs I just got out of this.
100%.
100, yeah, exactly. What you just said, good point. You know, everybody gets that dopamine high feeling when their video gets to be 1 million views, and yeah, that's great. You know, you're stoked. Your Instagram's pushing your video more. Hey, they're pushing a lot of videos.
Right.
You know, billions of videos are getting pushed on the feed these days. So unless you have something that separates you from the rest of the people, it's not going to make a difference.
Yeah. Well, I think just people get too focus on the numbers and not what comes from it. I think
that's the difference in our that's the difference in our society nowadays. You know, because we didn't have social media back in the day. People weren't preoccupied with this kind of thing. Now it's like people have lost touch with the sense of money and numbers.
Right.
You know, so I feel for people who look at it that way. I want everybody to be successful doing it, but I feel for people who get burned out trying it.
Right. And what's one thing that bothers you about social media?
A lot of crap content out there these days, man. I mean, straight up. Like, sometimes I'll be scrolling on the feed and just start laughing. I'm like, what am I even looking at?
Right.
Like I don't have a TikTok account. I started an account and I just decided no, because I cannot watch dance videos all day and all that stuff. I mean, yeah, that stuff is on Instagram as well, but I think Instagram is at least pushing more high quality content.
Right. Yeah, no, TikTok is
it's pure brainwashing.
It's just everything. Yeah, it's
horrible.
Just a bunch of stuff, man. And like you said, the dancing or the lip singing, like, to me, that's not entertaining. So I know a lot of people find that entertaining, but
right.
I mean, I would agree with you. There's a lot of crap content, and there's a lot of crap content that gets a lot of views and, a lot of play, right? And then there's other stuff that is really quality stuff that might not get anything or whatever. You're like, why is this not blowing up? This should blow up, right? And it doesn't.
Absolutely.
Like,
I mean, sometimes people will take a video on their phone of a sunset. Oh, 1 million, 2 million views, 3 million views. I'm like, wow, anybody could have taken that video on their cell phone. You know?
No, I agree. Yeah, I think the one thing that bothers me with social media is just the following and unfollowing game. People following you or just unfollowing you over time. People that we've talked about this before, like people that have like actually engaged with you. I don't know if this has happened to you. This has happened to me a few times. People like engage with you. You're like, oh, this guy's like, or this person's like cool. They like DM you, and then they unfollow you like years. I've had this happen a couple of times where people have unfollowed me like 3 years later, and I'm just like, what? And I've called out people because of this. And, they get all, butthurt about it. But I'm like, dude, why'd you unfollow me, right? Like, I thought we were cool. We do the same stuff. Like, I thought this was a community, right? I think this whole community talk, I get lost with it because it's like, is it really about community? Or is it just you gaining as much followers as possible? Yep. And just because of the ratio, right? I mean, how I look at it, when I look at someone's, like, profile, let's just say they have 10,000 followers, and if I look at their following and it's like 600, that means they don't care about any community. They don't care about other people doing similar things, right?
Right.
So I don't know. That's a pet peeve with me, dude. Is just the whole like follow to unfollow game. It bothers me.
It's what do we call it? The follow for follow game, right?
Yeah.
They follow you. They want you to follow them back, and then as soon as you start following them back, then they unfollow you.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people pull that card, and it's a sneaky tactic. I'm like, wow, you are really serious about your Instagram.
Yeah,
man.
You're talking about strategy. Yeah. That's their strategy.
But I've also noticed that people who do that strategy always end up biting the bullet in the end because people notice it and they're like, oh, this guy's not authentic. He's not an actual decent human being. Because I honestly, I'm not saying anything horrible, but I honestly think if you're a dude and you're playing these little games that like a middle schooler would play, you might want to check yourself.
No, they're not genuine, and people want genuine. They want to connect with genuine people.
Yeah, they want authentic people.
Yeah, they want somebody who looks like a nice, real person who's like not just full of themselves. And yeah, I think like they want somebody authentic for sure.
Or just being helpful too, which is great. But people overreach on being helpful also, like asking for help. Like I've had people who don't follow me come out of the woodworks, right? And ask me like a bunch of stuff to like get educated about drone stuff or whatever. And I'm like, dude, you don't even follow me. Like, why are you even hitting me up in my DM asking me like, all these like tips and tricks of like how to do something.
Of
You
course,
know?
of course.
Do you get that? Do you get that? You probably do.
Absolutely. No, that's a very common thing. And I was wanted to mention one more thing. You know, it's funny because with my status now, I get these profiles following me that never would have followed me, like, let's say 2 years ago when I only had like 20,000 followers. Now I have over 100, and now it's like, boom, oh, you're following me just because I have that.
Because your numbers.
Because the numbers. And I'm like, okay, like, you're obviously one of those people who only wants to follow the big accounts.
That's so lame,
yeah,
dude.
it's lame.
Yeah.
Yeah, you put your work into your stuff, though, man.
And it's also really interesting, too. I'm kind of one of those dudes that reads comments. I don't know if you guys do, too.
Yeah, I do.
The fact that people... Okay, I saw a guy clown on someone because he only had 200 followers. He only had 600. Like, you're gaining this ego from only having 600 followers. Like, it actually means something at the end of the day. And especially, like you're saying, if you're not monetizing your work,
right,
then what's the point? A popularity contest.
Exactly. It's like you're in high school all over again, and who can have the best numbers.
So, you know, just to give some advice to the viewers, what advice would you give the viewers about just social media, like video creation? Like, what is one thing you think is good to become, or at least stand out on social media? There's so much stuff out there, right? So how do you think you stand out, or how you would give someone advice to stand out, to be, you know, to be like, hey, I'm professional, I can do great work. Like, what advice would you give somebody who's getting into this game and who's going to use social media as like a marketing platform for their service?
Well, for me personally, you know, posting something different every day has been a great strategy for me. So, like, you know, I used this saying before, you know, my audience is hungry. I'm feeding them, but I'm feeding them something different every day. So I think that's a great strategy because your audience is never going to get bored. They're always going to have something to look forward to seeing next on your feed. But then there's some people who, like, literally post the same kind of video every day, whether it's like, you know, learning something new, a trick or tip. But I think those videos are really good to present as long as your audience can learn something new from you.
Yeah, not something that's been reinvented about 1,000 times, right? I see a lot of educational videos that, you know, it's so basic that someone's already done that video about 1,000 times. So it's like you're reinventing the wheel kind of thing. Like, why don't you hit us with something different where you go? And that was another thing I talked to another guy about is, do you think you should let your secrets out? Maybe you know how to do certain things. Do you think you should give that up to people? Do you think so? Like, is there things that you know that you probably wouldn't want to tell anybody because you're one of the, I'm not going to say the only one, but only few that know how to do certain things, you know, in editing or whatever. I would keep that. That stays in my vault. If I know how to do something like really well, more than others, I sometimes don't want to give that. Just like, oh, I'm gonna make a video and let everybody know about it. Like,
it's almost like doing like a master class, right?
Yeah.
Like you're giving the audience your skills that you have obtained.
But for free. Master class costs money. So like, do you think you would create a YouTube video or whatever, or Instagram video for educational purpose on something that you might know that you don't want to give up, maybe?
I mean, I guess there are a few tricks and tips that I don't mind sharing with people, but then there's some stuff I want to keep it to myself, you know? Like, I don't want them to know everything about how I do, but at the same time, like I said, I am not worried about competition.
Right.
Because, you know, somebody can learn what I do the same way I do it, but they're not going to apply it the same way I do.
Yeah. They're not going to come with the Cory creative side.
Exactly.
And where do you get your creativity from?
So many things. I mean, I think I just was like born to be creative when I was very young. Obviously, my dad being an artist was very inspiring for me. And I have a great grandfather who's a filmmaker. So that running
so it's in the blood.
It's in the blood, yeah. So I think I was like meant to be a filmmaker, and I feel like I'm doing exactly what I should be doing. But honestly, it's so weird, but I get a lot of inspiration from watching movies. It's like every time I watch a new movie, I like learn something new. It opens up like a doorway in my mind that like wasn't there before.
Right.
So whether it's like an editing technique, a storytelling technique, a line of dialogue, I feel like I really learned something new.
Sounds like you look past just the movie. You kind of really dissect it. And I think people just watch movies to watch them.
Just to be entertained.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I watch things to dissect them. Like, how did they do that? Or I'm always the one like seeing something that most people don't see. Like, you know, maybe there was a bad edit or a little hit or something in the background, and most people don't pay attention. I always pay attention. My eyes always go to like that stuff. But that's for me working in television, you know. So
Of course.
you know, when I worked in television, I trained my eye to like to be, you know, noticing all that stuff. So it's just that's good. It's good to hear from you, from a professional, you know, where your creative stuff. I think it innately is there, right? It just takes a little to get it out. But do you run into any kind of like writer's block on your creativity?
100%. You have to be in the right mindset to do this kind of thing. Like, if you're like, for example, if you're having some sort of problem in your life, whether you're, you know, your friend's mad at you, you're not getting along with your girlfriend, maybe you're upset about something in your daily life, that is going to mess with your creativity big time. You got to be in a clear, fresh mindset to keep pushing forward and getting those creative juices out.
I agree. Yeah, you got to be in the right mindset for sure.
Yeah.
You know, it's tough to do it day in and day out, to be on top of it all the time. But you do that pretty well. So, last segment we're going to get to is we're going to talk to Cory about his new movie, The Canyon. So your major role was director of cinematography, editor, producer, and what else am I missing?
Executive producer too.
Oh, executive producer. So you can get paid once this movie sells, huh?
Yeah, no, I had I mean, let's put it this way. Yeah, even though I didn't write and direct, technically my director and I were like 50-50 on the project. We're partners. We did this together. So I'm a big part of it just as much as he is.
I know this movie has taken a while to make, right? Or at least finalize. When did you guys actually start?
So we got the funding during lockdown.
So 2020?
No, I'm not kidding. March of 2020 is when we started our campaign to raise funds for the movie. And we didn't know COVID was coming. You know, we just started a Seed and Spark campaign. It's basically like a Kickstarter, but for movies. So you can raise up to what we were trying to ask for, $25,000 to make the film. And surprisingly, we actually made that goal meet. And
was all your funding through Kickstarter? Or did you get other funding from somewhere else?
No, Seed and Spark.
That was Seed and Spark. Oh,
Seed and Spark, which is like Kickstarter. It's like your film version of Kickstarter if you have it. So yeah, that's where we got the funds, and then of course we had to ask other people and investors for funds as well, because you know you can budget these movies, but at the end of the day, you always need more money to go with that to get it made properly.
So how many people were actually involved in the end?
As far as like the cast and crew?
Yeah, everything. Anyone that's going to have their name and the ending credits.
Oh, God. Oh, no, that goes beyond that. I mean, there was a lot of other, you know, silent investors, so to speak. So we had a few other investors. But as far as like the cast and crew, people on set, probably about 25, 30 people.
Oh, that's it?
We only have a cast of 4 people. But we had several makeup artists. We had myself as the director of photography. I had 2 grips. I had a sound guy. My director, he had an assistant. So it was a lot of people involved when we were on set.
And this takes place where? Where'd you mostly shoot at?
So we shot in Orange County, Laguna Beach, Riverside County, and Chino Hills. Yeah.
Nice.
It all takes place in nature.
Yeah, that's what it looks like from the trailer. When is the actual due date for this? What day are you looking to get this out so everyone can see it?
Well, we're looking at about a month out from now, actually.
So sometime maybe February, March?
Probably the end of February. Yeah, the movie's done. It's been done since New Year's. We are just now getting ready to explore venues to premiere it. So, yeah.
What are the top venues? What venue would you like to see it played at?
Obviously, I'd like to take it to like the big Newport Theater where I saw Terminator 2. That would be awesome to premiere it there on like that big screen. But yeah, one thing at a time.
What's the process of that? Do you have to like? Does it have to be like voted on? Do you have to? Is it just money?
No, I think those venues you just rent them out. I mean, ideally, our big goal with this is to get into film festivals.
Right,
you know, like the Sundance.
Yeah.
Exactly. They got the Telluride Film Festival. San Diego has a couple.
And
LA.
how does that happen? How do you get into like Sundance? Does that have to be voted from a committee type people? Just be like, hey, this is good enough.
Yeah, you just have to get the word out there. I mean, that's why we're starting now with these screenings of the movie, just to get the word out there, and hopefully maybe some investor from LA or somebody who's involved with those film festivals will see it, and therefore we start generating interest in the video or in the movie, so it'll allow more opportunity and credibility for us to be able to get into those film festivals.
Were there any issues making this movie?
Tons of issues. Where do I start? What do you want to know?
Whatever. Tell me the worst. Let's go worst to better.
Oh my god. Okay, so day one. So we shot some scenes like later in the day, almost at night. We had a generator. And no, I'm not kidding you. It requires 4 people to carry this generator.
Ooh.
Yeah, so when we had wrap production, we had to carry the generator in the pitch dark, tripping over bushes, walking to the car. It was like a mile away. I'm not kidding you. It took us almost an hour just to get the generator back to the car. We had to take breaks every now and then. My friend busted his ankle while we were carrying it. I mean, we couldn't help but laugh. Because it was just so, it's a ridiculous situation.
You were telling me you guys were shooting at a certain, park or something, and a ranger told you couldn't, your permit didn't cover that area or something where you were shooting, and they, basically shut down your production?
Our production got shut down.
For the whole day, huh?
It was the 4th day. Yeah, we had this location lined up. So it was weird. We had a permit, but the permit allowed us to only shoot in one area of this nature preserve. So we were on the cusp of another nature preserve. And so the woman said, you can't be in this area. So we had to basically scratch that location we had planned on shooting on. And we found a new location the day of. And it actually worked.
Out.
It was exactly what we were looking for. And couldn't have worked out better.
And what was the final production time? The whole schedule of it.
How many days of production?
Yeah.
I say the whole project in total was 7 initial days of shooting with the cast and crew, and then about 2 days of pickup shots, meaning B-roll of nature, sound ambience, forest, you name it. Few miscellaneous shots here and there, and then ADR, another day of ADR.
Mm-hmm.
Added on recording afterwards.
So how many hours do you think this whole movie's been put into?
Oh god, with production and post-production?
Just everything all together.
Let's see, 7 days, 8 days of production. Let's see. I'd say honestly we've spent over 100 hours editing. Maybe 150 hours if I'm not mistaken. Just adding up the time with my director and I getting together and working on this. So with that, probably 200 hours, give or take. Yeah.
So that just shows the audience even just making your own independent film, it takes time, commitment, takes money, right? How much budget? How much did you finally after the end of getting all the budget for? How much were you in? $50,000 to create this movie?
About 40. Maybe a few more thousand, but yeah, give or take, because we started around $25,000 for the budget,
right.
But obviously became more expensive than we anticipated. So.
And you weren't paying yourself though, right?
No.
Yeah.
Nope,
So this is all.
Everybody else gets paid, but my director and I, we don't get paid.
Yeah.
We don't see a dime of this until the movie gets picked up or something happens.
One thing I never knew is I'm guessing the movie's rated R, right?
Well, no rating, but yeah, if you had to classify it, it had to be.
Do they have to be rated to go to Sundance?
I think
right?
for film festivals, you'd have to rate it somehow. So if you had to say, it would be rated R.
It would be rated R?
For language and violence, yeah.
Violence, okay.
Disturbing imagery.
Yeah. And how do you go about that, getting it rated? I never knew how you rate a movie. Does that go to a committee and they vote?
Well, it's so funny because when you start production of a movie, it might be rated R, but then once you release it, you're like, oh wait, let's get it to PG-13 so we can get a more mass audience to see it. So it all depends on how you want to distribute it, and ultimately who that distributor is. How they're going to help you do it.
Right.
Do you think that actually hurts films sometimes when they go from rated R to PG-13 just for that kind of cause, but then it kind of softens the movie up drastically?
It works. It's an advantage or disadvantage of some movies because there's certain movies you'll watch and you'll see maybe it was supposed to be rated R but it's PG-13, and then you notice they're removing some of the F-bombs in the movie just to get it down to PG-13. But then there's other ones where I'm like, okay, it almost doesn't even make a difference. Have you guys seen Live Free or Die Hard?
Yes.
It's the most recent, not the most recent Die Hard movie, but it came out. So that was PG-13. All the other Die Hard movies are rated R.
Yeah.
Honestly, that did not make a difference for me. Like, I love that movie.
You can get away with more, too, nowadays.
Exactly.
I mean, when we were growing up, there was PG, right? And some of the PG movies probably were, like, borderline PG-13.
Or R.
Or almost R,
yeah.
you know? Like, the whole rating system has... They've kind of gave them some leeway of, like, what could be PG-13 to rated R, right?
I even think like Predators was rated PG-13.
Yeah, I love Predator.
And that was my favorite movie as a kid, but I'm like, dude, this is definitely rated R+. This is not PG-13.
Yeah, a little NC-17 rated.
Yeah, people could definitely get away with a lot more now than they used to. I mean, back in the day, you know, a rated R movie would be like, you know, 5 F-bombs. Now it's like they could put that in a PG-13 movie.
Yeah, you hear
it's not
them
that
in
big a deal.
PG-13 stuff. One thing I wanted to know is what kind of equipment did you guys use? What was it really shot on?
Yeah, so we shot with a Red camera for 2 of the days.
And you just rented that out?
So you know, we had actually one of our cast members, Carson. He had a Red camera, so we rented it from him for a couple days. And then the remaining time, we actually surprisingly shot with a C300 Mark II, which is pretty much up to par with a Red camera. Similar cinema camera setup, but very cinematic, super 35. We want to achieve that old school look, so to speak. The movie takes place in 1976.
Yeah, Vietnam.
So it's a very retro kind of looking movie.
Yeah, no, it looks pretty cool. It looks pretty enticing. I can't wait to go view it, man. I think even before, you know, once you get it in the theater, it'd be cool to like maybe do a little like park setup and show it to like all your friends and family, maybe. You know, like do a screen, like we were talking, get a projector and like kind of like a movie in the park type thing, right?
Yeah.
That'd be kind of cool. Get all the like, you know, all the homies together and, you know, the family and sit down and watch. That'd be kind of cool. At least for me, that'd be cool.
No, exactly what you said, man. That's the idea. We already have our venue picked out in Laguna Beach, Forest Avenue. Our friend has a venue there to premiere the movie, so we already tested it out on the projector and. Wow, it's a game changer.
Awesome,
honestly,
man.
I've never seen it on a big screen before. Now I was just looking at it on a computer. It's just amazing.
What'd you use to color grade it?
Got DaVinci and After Effects, some Adobe Premiere, but mostly DaVinci.
Yeah.
I didn't do the coloring. I cannot take credit for that.
So you had a colorist?
Absolutely, yeah.
You're pretty good at it, so.
Yeah, I know color grading to a certain extent, but.
But fully edited by you, though, right?
Fully edited by me, fully put together by us. Yeah, just sound design, color grading was all done by a third party. Because honestly, it's a very special technique. You know, color grading a horror movie, that's a particular look.
Yeah.
You know, especially a retro 1976 horror movie. It's a very specific look you want to give it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Well, I can't wait to see it. But, be on the lookout for Cory's new movie. It's called The Canyon. Should be coming out here hopefully the end of February, maybe early March. Be on the lookout for that. Is that going to be able to be viewed online at all either, or is it just going to be directly at a theater? Are you going to post
just
it
screenings for now? Yeah, we're not going to spill the beans and put it out online yet. You know, I don't want like too many people seeing it. Of course, we do have it online, like a private link, and if you really want to watch it, maybe I'll send it to you, but. No, I think the best way to experience it is to come to the movie theater, like you're seeing a movie in the theater for the first time.
Awesome. Well, let's take a watch of the trailer. I'm dying to see it again.
Yeah. Let's get scared.
Let's get scared.
He died in Nam. God knows what the hell came back. To Shelby, our lost friend. We miss you, buddy. To Shelby.
There was this story he told me once. Shelby and his guys were stationed near this little village in the hills. There was this scary shaman who was over 100 years old. Word got out that the Viet Cong were hunkered in the village. There was this phrase that he kept saying over and over and over. I met the taker of souls.
died in Nam. God knows what the hell came back.
Looks awesome.
I must say the actors are actually really legit. Like, they're not cheesy at all. Like, when you watch short films, don't you ever like watch the actors and you're like, man, these are not good actors,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
But no, Jennifer Levinson and Carson Nicely, probably the two people you saw the most in the trailer. Yeah, they're incredible, without a doubt.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool to me, man. I'm totally into horror movies, so I can't wait to see it, man.
You're gonna love it.
Yeah, it looks great, man. Well, thanks, Cory, man. Thanks for coming by and rapping with us about just your life as a content creator, cinematographer, rapping about social media, since that's a big thing for you, and also plugging your new movie. One thing we do when we end this podcast is we do a kind of a quote of the day. The reason we do quote of the day, it's just, I don't know, I think quotes have gotten me through some tough times. They put things in perspective. Sometimes, it can, add some value to people to hear something. But one quote I found for you, because I think this is perfect for you, is quality is not an act, it's a habit. And it's from Aristotle. Like, how does that apply to your life, or does that have any feeling that quality is a big part of your life? I know it is, but how does it apply to your life?
Quality is everything, man. I mean, honestly, like, we only have one life to live. You want to live it to your best. You don't want to look back on your life and regret anything. So that's how I live every day. Waking up blessed, a new day, a new experience. Everything's different. Every day is different than the day before. So I just want to embrace everything positively and live the best life I can and live life to the fullest.
Right. And then your quality also just bleeds through your video making, It's always, top tier.
If you enjoy doing what you're doing, man, you have that boosted quality of life.
Yeah,
sure.
it's like anything, quality over quantity, right?
Yeah.
So, like, back to the social media thing, you can have a bunch of quantity basic videos, but maybe if you just make that one video and you only post maybe once or twice a week, but it's quality, I think outshines any quantity of footage, right? So
heck yeah.
Yeah, that's how I look at it too. I think we agree on a lot of things. I think that's why we work well with each other just throughout our production days. And that, and just putting your head down and getting things done. That's one thing I like about you, Cory. When you work, like, you get things done and you're fully there, and you're always looking for the best way to do things. So yeah, I mean, that's one thing I've taken from working with you is, you're always down to do whatever. And I think that's what it takes people to do to get into this industry, is you got to be down to do things, but also have a good attitude about it, right? Because you got to work with clients and all that good stuff. You can't have a bad attitude, right? So
no messing around.
No messing around with Cory. But yeah, we just want to end it on that. Thanks for viewing. This is VDB, episode 3 with Cory Sparkuhl. His Instagram is Sparkuhl_films. Check out his footage. Check out his movie, of course. But yeah, I just want to say thank you, Cory, for coming through and doing this for us. It means a lot, to come out here and do this for us. So thank you.